गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। I'm back in my base and we're going to discuss China's geopolitical decline. I've been wanting to do this topic for a long time, but for one reason or the other, events kept overtaking us. So I see a lull and we have to understand. After all, our primary focus is still China. And we need to understand what's happening there and everything, That's, I think, very important. Okay, a lot of people will be, I would say, skeptical about what I'm going to talk, but I'm going to prove it. Okay, most of all, my good old friend Amitesh Bera, he says, "Sir, this China decline story is heard from a long time. In fact, from 80s, but it is still not declined." If you feel that it is not declined, I think you're living in a different world. And I agree. What people spoke of China from 80s was quite different from what I'm going to speak now. At that point of time, people spoke of collapse, this, that, all that. Let's understand one thing. China won't collapse. 1 to 1.4 billion people won't run away. Okay. It will only decline. Its geopolitical decline means that its power will go down. And what you have seen, happening in Op Sindoor and in Iran, the decline is very perceptible. And that is what we're going to talk of today. Okay. So, right. Before that, I'd request, look, as Yogesh says, namaskar to all viewers. Please click the like button, subscribe to Gunner Shot, and join in as a member. Right. I understand many of you who, for the past 3 days since I was almost off air, have not subscribed. But those of you who are seeing Gunner Shot for the first time, please subscribe. I'll also request all of you to subscribe to Strategic Frontline, which is the clause channel, which is also being, this broadcast is going to them also. And before I go further, Avjit Devnath, thanks for becoming a YouTube member. And also Subramaniam Swaminathan, thanks for becoming a YouTube member. And here we go with China. And that's the most important, the reason why we are here. Okay, let's look at it, go back in time. Let's go back in time. Unless you go back in time, you'll not understand what happened. And where did it all start? It started with the Iran-Saudi deal. And that was the, pinnacle of Chinese success. That is the time, when China negotiated a peace deal between Iran and Saudis. It was considered to be a victory for the Chinese diplomacy. It also indicated that China was on the up and America was down. Okay. And everyone said, look, the Sino-centric world order is here. America can't influence anything. That was the zenith. But what happened after that? Okay, right. What happened after that? The first harbinger of this decline happened in Syria. What happened in Syria? And this is an analysis by Stimson's, which says China struggles to adjust to a post-Assad Syria. You have to understand what happened in Syria. Look, Bashar al-Assad fled in December. Syria didn't happen very far back, 7 months back. Okay. China had bet on Syria. It collapsed. It gave unconditional support to Syria and Assad. And from when? From 2011, when the civil war broke out. That was the time when ISIS was active and a lot of things were happening. And China gave a blank check to Assad. To the extent that, and for one of the events, I think the Asian Games or something like that, no flights were operating out of Syria. Xi Jinping sent Air China a special flight to bring Assad and his wife for that event. That kind of a VIP treatment. But yet, when Assad fled to Russia, Okay, he's now in Russia. All the Chinese officials fled Syria. They thought they'll be at the mercy of Islamists. There's a reason. I'll tell you why. The Assad regime committed tremendous amount of atrocities. There were chemical attacks, human rights violations, murders, torture, the works. They were hated, except by the Alawite Shiites. China used veto to shield Assad from accountability, from going to the International Criminal Court. They also opposed all sanctions and they kept helping Assad. Mind you, from 2011 to 24, 13 years. Okay, long time. And why? Because the Uyghurs who were fighting in Xinjiang, they went to Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, they didn't find place. So they didn't have a sanctuary in Iraq or Iran. So they landed up in Syria. They became part of HTS. Okay. And China wanted to keep all those chaps there and finish them. And Assad was helping them. They were part of the Turkestan Islamic Party. Okay, this is a problem. And that is why they were backing Assad completely, to keep the Uyghurs there. And it fell. Now the Uyghurs, we don't know where they are, how they are, what they are. Will they go back to Xinjiang? A matter of time. Because they were very highly regarded by Syrians. Okay. So that's why I say the geopolitical decline is not over 1 day, 2 days. Peak was 23. Next year, down. Okay. What's the third thing? Op Sindoor. We know, we've discussed Op Sindoor in great detail. There's nothing much to imagine about Op Sindoor. But what happened in Op Sindoor is not as much as a defeat of Pakistan or defeat of India and all that. And I put out a video as to what China lost in Op Sindoor. And the thing to understand is, look at this. These are the articles which came out in Bedu. Strategic dilemma for Chinese. Okay, Gwadar is the lifeline of China-Pakistan economic corridor, and that's at risk. The issue of Balochistan independence, it put jitters into the Chinese. And, when the ceasefire happened against India, with India, Pakistan, they felt Pakistan is confronted on the front door or the front foot by India, back foot by Balochistan, and then China is at risk. But then things turned even worse when the field marshal went to USA. What happened after that? We all know. Pakistan army has turned to USA. They are in USA's good book, and that is away from China. All the CPEC investments are now under pressure and at risk. They know it. See, that's the articles which came out. A series of articles, about 8 to 10 articles from Bedu. They have lost their influence. And now it's very clear, Pakistan will never repay China. Whatever China has invested there, they've lost. So they've lost money, they've lost influence. Now they're at the risk of losing critical minerals to USA and Trump. I am very sure that Munir has already made a deal. By you come and invest through that Barrick Gold, that Canadian company, don't let the Chinese get in. Because Chinese already have a foot in Sendak. Ricotic he'll give their competing interests. So there's a loss of space to USA. And mind you, Pakistan is their flagship project. Iron Brothers, this, that, all that. Okay. So that's the thing which we have to understand. And then next is the EU. Till about 6-7 months back, trade war, they knew what will happen, all that. trade war was not on the horizon as much as tariffs were on the horizon when Trump was getting re-elected. After he got re-elected, somewhere in November, his results came out, if you remember. But they were saying, look, we will offset America with EU. We'll do a sweet talk with EU. And then when Trump came and slapped tariffs on EU and China, China was very happy. Now they will team up with EU and get going. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Their charm offensive fell flat. Look at this. This is all their reporting. The charm offensive fell flat. Europeans felt we are not billiard balls that you can do what you want with us. Okay. What happened in this whole deal? Okay. The expectation was that Trump, with his trade war, would push Europe and China closer. It didn't happen. The thinking was that Europe can't have a trade war with China and USA together while footing the bill for Ukraine. That didn't happen. Because the Chinese didn't fall for, the Europeans didn't fall for the Chinese. They knew if they did a deal with China, it's going back to pre-COVID days, and the losers would be China. Sorry, I'm mixing. The losers would be Europeans. See, Europeans were over invested in China as it is. Their investments there are stuck. They wanted a out. And letting China come into Europe means Europe also will get what their investments in China are done. They're stuck there. Now, if Chinese are allowed to pour into EU and dump into you, which is happening, despite all this, EU has not been able to stop that to a large extent. The EU will be out of business. Okay, that failed. And there's a comment, a very interesting comment. Because the distance between EU and America has increased, does not mean the distance between EU and China has decreased. This is a sentiment which is coming, and this came out about 10-15 days back. And then China has close ties with Russia. That's not appreciated by the Europeans. Okay? China wants to negotiate on the Ukraine war without distancing from Russia. We'll do what we want with Russia, but we'll do everything else. It's a dual posture, which the Europeans didn't like. Okay, so, and another comment, the current global trading system is not working as it should. Guardrails are clearly missing. On this point, Donald is right. Who said this? Wonderlian. We all witness the cost and consequences of China's coercion through export restrictions. She was talking of rare earths. So overall, the influence of China on EU has gone. If there's anything, EU is swinging back to USA. Right? It's only a matter of time. After all, getting China into EU means signing their own death warrant. So that's gone. And that's what it is. Wonderland is reiterating a hard line against China all over. And this was evident in the G7 summit in Canada. So there also their influence is gone. Okay. Syria we spoke, Opsindur we spoke of Europe. Let's talk of Russia. Now, after all, Russia and China have that no holds barred friendship. If no secrets friendship and all that. What happened there? That's the interesting part. Russian secret intelligence, they leaked a document. I don't know how it got leaked, it came out. Which shows China as their enemy. Okay? Very clearly in that they've shown China as their enemy. In that document, Russia has concerns about industrial espionage and basically targeting Russian weapon firms to part with the TOT, bribe them and all that, and technology. They want technology. They're doing espionage in Ukraine as to what Russia is doing, right? And China wants to learn about Russian weapons and US weapons through espionage, through Ukraine. Then Arctic espionage. The Russians are worried that China is going to use Russia and piggyback into the Arctic. So there's a shift in relations between the two. So today, and plus there are more inputs. Let me put it. You see what's happened in Iran. Things are different, and Iran is the main point of analysis today. We'll come to that. So Russia also, things have shifted for China. It's not so hunky dory anymore. Okay. Now we'll talk of the Iran deal or other Iran-Israel war. What's Russia's stand on this or the stake on this? We know China has been completely marginalized. But let me take you through certain analysis, right? Because I can keep making all kinds of statements. China has marginalized this, that, and all. But what is the take? What is the analysis behind this? That is important. Okay, we have to see what is the thought process behind this. Look, if you're coming to Gunner Shot and you're going to subscribe to Gunner Shot, you're going to join Gunner Shot or like these videos, you're going to look at analysis. That's the USP. Okay, let's look at that first. First and foremost, see the dependency on oil. Huge. And China's dependency on the Middle East is well known, but it's the major buyer of Iranian oil. Throughout this whole war, they were worried that the Strait of Hormuz will close. If the Strait of Hormuz closed, China would have got hit. And China did not do anything to keep that Strait of Hormuz open. They didn't issue a statement. They're supposed to have a great military. Nothing happened. Look at that. That's the thing. They were at the mercy of either Iran or USA or Israel. Okay. Somewhere Xi Jinping came out with a 4-point proposal. Did we hear of it? Did anyone discuss? No one bothered also about this 4-point proposal. And it came out in Global Times and things like that. What was it? This was before the ceasefire. The ceasefire came when Trump wanted it and Israel wanted it and Iran wanted it and all that. But not when Xi Jinping or China wanted it. No one bothered about it. Xi Jinping says ceasefire must be an urgent proposal. Ensuring civilian safety must be a top priority. Dialogue and negotiation are fundamental solutions. International community's peacemaking efforts are indispensable. ये 4 हैं इसके point. ये तो मैं भी बोल लेता है यार, तुम भी बोल लेते. Amitesh Bera will also tell this. Or anyone for that matter. Or right? Anyone would have said, or maybe Abhijit Chakravarti or Akash. Anyone could have said this 4 points, which is not a great deal. Okay. And then it started beating its own drum, saying, amongst the major powers, it's only China which has shown responsibility. And they said, 4-point proposal is highly targeted and all. Who the hell knew what he was thinking? And China is willing to strengthen communication and coordination with all parties, and we will come and do mediation and all. So far, China ka naam hi nahi hai. No one's bothered about what China has done. See, the Sindoor and Iran war have really hit China badly. My way of looking at it. Okay. Then it went on. China condemns US strikes. That's the strongest word they used. We condemn. Anyone can say I condemn USA. Who's bothered? Did you do anything? You didn't do anything. The Chinese didn't do anything. This is it. Now, these were the things. China's interests were at risk. This is all their reporting. They felt that they were at risk. If your interests are at risk, you should do something to go and guard them. Why didn't you? If you couldn't guard them, no one will respect you. Your influence is gone. That's the point. Okay. All this is saying now China's influence is tested by US airstrikes and all that, but direct role unlikely. This they had said before the ceasefire, everything. All my interests are being affected, but I will not interfere. I will not interfere. I will not help Iran. Okay, right. All these analysis, if the Strait of Hormuz closes, what will happen? China will get affected. Everyone knows that. Every idiot knows that. They kept analyzing. That's about all. Okay, and they're not likely to use their navy. All this came out before the ceasefire, which I kept saying that look, China is not doing anything. Even the other day when I did this, we did this thing with Brigadier Sehgal on Iran's options. We said, look, China should do one of the options was China moves its task force, supports Iran and all. Nothing happened. The Americans have analyzed it in a different manner, and it's interesting. This is a New York Times analysis. It says a US attack on Iran would show the limits of China's power. This was before Fordo was attacked. By then, the analysis was out. Everyone knew if US now gets into the war, China's limitations are shown. Now that attack is over, there's this lot of discussion on that attack on Fordo and all that. Still, China has not done anything. Okay, this is the analysis. China has much to lose. We knew it because half the oil, energy requirement comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran was their closest partner in this region. And they were the ones who were pushing back against American influence. They were finished. That's lost. Iran, we know, has lost Hezbollah, Hamas, degraded, Houthis, all these chaps are degraded. Hezbollah is gone. Right? There's a huge loss of face for the Chinese. No one bothered to talk to them also. Okay. So, and if the energy prices, the chances of the energy prices going up are still high. If the energy prices go up, who loses? China. Well, now the general thinking is China used Iran and Saudi deal and all that to expand its influence. But when Iran wanted it, it gave up. Same thing with Pakistan now. Pakistan will learn now. Now look at the China-US relationship. China could not influence Trump or USA at all. And it was well known that China assessment was China will not come to Iran's help. Why? It was assessed that China did not have the capability to insert forces to defend Iran or its interests or its own forces. Assessment was out. Even during Op Sindoor, we were very clear that China didn't interfere anywhere. They gave all the help to Pakistan, but did nothing on their own. And what did they give? They must have given some, there were reports, some 3 aircraft came from China to Iran. Yeah, with 3 aircraft worth of load, will you win the war? It would have gained if US got involved and there was a prolonged war, which meant America had to come with more troops and ships and all that. That didn't happen. All that has not happened. All this analysis, mind you, was before the war ended. I mean, because events over took one after the other, I couldn't, explain all this to you people. Okay. Now, this was a thing that, look, how US hits Iran will tell China What? How will Trump approach foreign policy? Will he use force or not? Because of the question marks. Yeah, Trump came with the promise that he'll say want peace, yeah, I'll not go into a war and all that. So these chaps are watching. Now they know what Trump can do. And it's got effect on Taiwan, that analysis is also there. That's it. Their thinking was if Trump can interfere in Iran, then he can interfere in Taiwan. All that big talk, you can't come near, I will do this, I will do that, is all in the question mark. What did China do during this entire war? All it did was it looked after Chinese citizens and their assets and they evacuated them. That's it. They couldn't, after all, China, Iran was a strategic partnership. China said, we'll give you 400 billion, you give us oil, and we'll give you this, that, all that. There is news that China gave Iran satellite support for targeting Israel. And that is one story of support. What else did you do to help Iran? You didn't come out with one statement also. And the last thing here is very interesting. See, China is going to look out for China, no one else. Be very clear. China will never look out. See, it's natural that I look after my interests. Every nation will look after its interests. But at the same time, if you're an ally, you are a helper, you're supposed to be a support system. You're supposed to help them. But analysts say now China will look only after China, no one else. So where does you see, in geopolitics or everywhere, international relations, the importance is trust. I should look, we trust Russia. Why? Because during war they came to our aid. Not now, 71. Before wars, they helped us get ready. They have given us S-400, which they didn't give to China. Trust. We trust. Similarly, when Russia wanted something, we went against everyone, but we bought their oil and sustained them. Trust. Did that happen with China now? They lost trust, which is very important. Okay, now even Al Jazeera, this came out yesterday, right? This article came out yesterday. What does it say? Iran-Israel conflict exposed China's limited leverage, say analysts. And this issue also, about 1 year back, I remember, 1 year back, about 1 year back, or maybe a year and a half back, there were 4 analysts, one from Sri Lanka, one from Vietnam, one from, I think, Philippines, one from somewhere else, Japan or someone. I don't remember. There were 4 analysts who analyzed. He says it's okay to have great weapons. It's okay to talk big. You have a lot of everything and all. But you have never done anything for others. You have never exercised your military might. And then in that analysis, they said, look, USA doesn't hesitate to use military might. They'll come in and fight. Good, bad, or ugly, they'll fight. Okay, countries like India, Pakistan, they'll come into the fight. But China shies away from a fight. Now that's proven here. Again, they are not prepared to fight. There are other reasons why they can't fight, but we'll talk of it. Okay, now let's look at the American continent. This is an interesting set of graphics which are put together. Okay, now China today can't buy land in Texas. You know that? There are, Texas has said you can't buy land here. Why? Because their influence is increasing. So the flip is happening. You don't buy land, you don't buy assets, nothing. If one state does it, the other states will follow. It's a matter of time. They haven't. They're known. I put no go in Canada, but it's no go in Greenland. In Greenland, Trump has driven them away completely. Completely. All investments, Chinese investments in Greenland have been thrown out. Okay. And then Panama. Recent news about Panama. So these chaps, there was a deal where Panama Canal was to be bought out by a conglomerate from Italy and BlackRock and all that. It was about 2-3 months back. Then the Chinese put some spoke in it, and the deal is sorted out. Not sorted out. It's at this point of time stalled, not gone through and all. So what did Panama do? And they were still trying to control Panama Canal. So what did Panama do? Just about 10-15 days back, they told them, "Is it you behave? Otherwise, I'm going to nationalize it." Don't misbehave with this canal. You will now do what we tell you to do. If you do what if you do what you want to do and don't follow us, we are going to nationalize it. You sell it to anyone, not sell it to anyone, all that is later. It will be nationalized. They've got that, and after that, China has been behaving. Hopefully. Okay. Now let's look at. We looked at the Asian continent and Europe. Now you look at what's happened in America. Right? North Korea. Personally, I think North Korea is the biggest hit China has had. I keep telling this. Why? North Korea, till the Ukraine war, was supposed to be China's ally, closest ally. Everything was going from China to North Korea. Today, North Korea has done a deal with Russia, and Russia and China relations are not great. North Korea sent troops to Russia, Ukraine. We know that. Their communications are now based on Russian satellite and not Chinese satellites. They moved away for communications. They moved towards Russia. They have dealings with China, but China doesn't have that control which it had earlier. And please look at this. I keep saying this. Why? This is the most dangerous thing. North Korea is here. This is Beijing. See the distance. India to Beijing is very far, but North Korea to Beijing and this Korean peninsula is very close. And we have to understand the Korean peninsula, anything happens in the Korean peninsula, China is sensitive to it. Very sensitive to it. Okay? You have to go to Korea to understand it. I have not been to North Korea, South Korea, I've been a couple of times. It is palpable when you go there. When you go to Korea, it's palpable. You talk with them. You forget about talking with great people. You talk to the man on the street, he'll tell you the story. Okay? Then Japan and South Korea now want to nuclearize. They have increased their defense expenditures. Yeah, you'll see some trade deals happening and all because these 3-4 countries which are next to each other, they're all producing countries. To productionize their items, one is dependent on the other. And these networks have been built over the past 30 years. They're not going to come off immediately. Not going to happen. Let's be very frank. So there is going to be cooperation amongst them. And there is going to be competition against them. And there is going to be even aggression between them. Now, just like Europe is remilitarizing with 5% up to 5% investment into defense through NATO, or rather NATO countries, not Europe alone, NATO countries. Okay, same thing is happening here. It's actually happened earlier. And Japan militarizing and going nuclear is very difficult times for China. Taiwan is arming itself. Taiwan will say, whatever the Iraqis we've learned from Iraqis and Ukrainians will implement here, and they're doing it. You see, when 2 years back, 23, when Nancy Pelosi came to Taiwan, you know, that was a great exercise which, punishment drill which China did. They came, they fired, encircled Taiwan, all that. It was something. Today also they do. No, Taiwan is not bothered. Why? What China is now doing is watered down. And they're not even firing because when they fired the missiles all over and they paid for it. Now China fires missiles in their ranges and says, look, this is the way we'll destroy Taiwan. वो तो मैं भी करूंगा यार बैठ के पोखरण में जाके फायर करो. Every missile will, and rocket or weapon system which is under production or rather development goes to Pokhran for testing. That testing I'll take photographs and show it here. So Taiwan, I think they're in a bad shape, right? I mean, they're all their plans, right? Here, Philippines, they're resisting China hugely in parasols. Okay, and these chaps have bought BrahMos. Now you've seen what BrahMos can do in Pakistan. That same missile is now ranged against China. Now the Philippines chaps are very high. They say, you come, we'll build toko you with BrahMos. That anti-ship BrahMos you should see. I've seen, incidentally, long back when BrahMos first few firings, we hit a ship, old ship, decommissioned ship. It just went down. It just broke the ship. It's very lethal. Okay. With that kind of kinetic energy, if it hits, it goes. You've seen the effect against air bases. I don't have to explain. And they're worried now. Okay. The Vietnamese, they're holding, expanding their hold of Spratleys here. What have they done? I mean, Vietnamese in Spratleys, they built airports. One place in one island, they've made a runway and they're keeping their aircraft. And they've built infrastructure. What China was doing in Parasol, the Vietnamese went and did there. They said, you come and do what you want, I'll teach you. So 4-5 islands, they've occupied, not only occupied, they've built infrastructure. They've, in one island, there's a runway also. Happiness. See, what has happened in the past 2-3 months is because of the trade war, because of this Iran, because of Opsindur, because of what's happening with Iran, we have taken our eyes off China and what's happening there. Taiwan mein hota rahega yaar, we'll see later. That, look, I kept track of all that. After all, when did Pahalgam happen? April 22nd. And from there, India and all of us have been focusing that side. Or all our analysis is based on those events. Then May, Opsindur finished. June, this started. They're all connected, no? From April onwards, you're not looking at what happened. All this is happening. Some happened towards the end of last year. Some happened now. But in the past 6 months, there's a drastic change. And if I put that peak is that Saudi deal. And this analysis, how Trump's strike on Iran might affect China's calculus on Taiwan. Interesting analysis. Have a look at it. It explains China will have to think 10 times before it sets foot towards Taiwan. Okay. This is yet another interesting analysis. This is all these interesting analyses come out of China. The best and the most interesting analysis, the way I looked at it, in many cases comes out of China. They give out their vulnerability. He says, are Trump's Iran strikes a wake-up call for China on US unpredictability? So they now in the article they're saying, look, what if Trump does this to us? He did it to Iran. Everyone thought Iran, they'll not go in. Oh, he bloody went and took them. What if they took us? What will happen? So, if you see, like what Amitesh in the beginning, now I hope Amitesh is, where is he? Yeah. See, the decline is happening. We have to understand this. Okay. Right. I mean, this is all I had to tell you. And more than that, today, two more generals have been sacked in Pakistan. I mean, sorry, in China. One general and head of a nuclear um, corporation has been sacked. The nuclear corporation linked to the military. The general who's been sacked is the chief of PLA Navy. The naval chief has been sacked. You can have a look at it's there in Guancha, it's there in South China Morning Post, any portal. And the infighting in PLA is only between PLA and the politicians has only increased. Economy is going down. Maybe tomorrow, day after, I'll touch upon what's happening in China. In all metrics, they're going down. Employment, this, that, consumption, nothing. So where does it leave China? यहाँ तक Xi Jinping is not going for the BRICS summit. Why? Why is he not going to BRICS summit? Have we thought of it? It's possible that if he goes to BRICS summit, no, they'll tell him you be in Brazil only, don't come back. Or he feels BRICS will not give him anything. So if BRICS doesn't give him anything, then this entire idea of Sino-centric warfare, order and all has gone. You know what's happening in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or what Mr. Rajnath said. He said, "I'll not sign." Shanghai SCO gave out a statement during Iran-Iraq-Israel war. We have said we don't agree with it. We didn't let that go through. This is also not go through. BRICS is going down. This yuan as the alternate currency, de-dollarization, which we talk of, not happening. India said we are not interested in any other currency. So where is this? I mean, now if this is not decline, what is decline? Anyone who feels that I'm talking nonsense, you let me know if this is not decline, what is decline? No one is listening to him. He's not able to put his foot anywhere. He's not been able to use his military anywhere. No, his economy is in a bad shape. Now there's back to tariffs. Trump makes an announcement. No, if Iran doesn't give oil to China, China might collapse. So I've told him to give oil. I mean, this is funny. And Xi Jinping chup baita hai kahin. So overall, if you see India making a lot of noise. A lot of people say, no, our foreign policy is weak. We shouldn't have gone into it. Yeah, who's bothered about China? We have to start thinking differently. If you see all this, you should tell China, okay, you said what you wanted to say. I'm not interested. Get lost. In any case, that's what our defense minister has said, and the foreign minister seconded him publicly. End of story. Okay, right. With this, I again thank all of you who have joined, me today in the evening. If you like this, let us the like button. Also, I'd request all of you who are watching Gunner Shot for the first time to subscribe to Gunner Shot and even join me as members. So I'll take a few questions. We have some time, right? So I've finished with this thing. Yeah, do you support India expressing grave concern on the strike by Israel or Iran's strike on Iran by Israel in the recent BRICS statement? Look, this is just balancing. You shouldn't pay more attention to this. You just balance both. I've been telling you that, between Iran and Israel, there's very little we choose from. Okay. Today, an isolated Iran will seek help. And this is one place where we need to get some leeway. We have invested in Chabahar. That's the lifeline to take it to Afghanistan. So we need Iran. That's the lifeline to go to INSTC. I'll talk about this. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about Iran, its nuclear thing, how I'll go back because there's certain issues which we need to discuss on Iran and I feel it's gone dark. A dark Iran, a dark nuclear Iran is a dicey affair. That's one. Then there's RIC. Everyone says no RIC. I feel we need to go back to some form of RIC. And why I'll analyze it day after, Sunday morning. Okay. So wordcraft, it doesn't strengthen China's standing. Okay. Iran openly supports Pakistan and Kashmir issue. We know that. That also has been toned down quite a bit. Iran supporting Pakistan and Kashmir issue has toned down quite a bit. So things are changing. We should understand the change which is happening. And not get stuck by old things. If you are stuck in the old things, we have to see whether they are relevant today or not. That's the point. Do you have some insights on the bioweapons that China and USA are working on and if they could be game changers for them? Yeah, that bioweapon, no, but what happened? COVID. They were game changing for the whole world. That's it. Yeah. Okay. And Akash, Jai Hind, and Jai Bharat. Yeah, G, thanks a lot for joining. I liked and subscribed. Thank you, Wordcraft. So all of you can follow his example. Great insight on China and Pak on defense and political issues, including a strategic perspective. Yeah, we're gonna be at it. I'm not going. Look, I feel that we have to do a lot of study on China, and Pakistan is a new animal now, and we need to be at it. So I'll concentrate on that. Don't worry. Yeah, I like your face. You have to understand. This is a great to spur serious thinking for your viewers about this. Yeah, I agree with you. For one moment, I'm not saying that you people are ignorant. Sorry, that's not my thing. But you have to understand different perspectives. That 360-degree view is something which we need to develop. If you are going to be a big nation, you need to have all your sides covered. You take the case of USA. When it needed, it switched from India to Pakistan. We don't like it, that's a different story. But they had that capability to switch to their interests and cultivate him and go into Iran and all that. They probably didn't use Pakistan to go into Iran. They would have done it otherwise also. But they would have used it for deception. All this is probably part of deception. The Iranians are looking this side and that fellow came from the other side. All that. Possible. But they did it. China couldn't do it. China just let people down. So for us, if we have to do what we have to do as a strong nation, keep all sides of your toast buttered. Okay, that's important. Yeah, Praval Sharma, good evening. How are you? Sir, watching your videos with avid interest, may I request you to make a detailed video on India's nuclear journey and to compare that with Pakistan, North Korea? Madhumita, you know what? I can do that, but that doesn't help us. That doesn't help us. I can give you the nuclear thing, but what I can talk of, which I will, what's ahead? What's ahead is more interesting than what's behind. Okay. Because maybe in the next 5 years, we'll come to a stage where our uranium thing won't progress. One of the problems with our uh, nuclear story is that we don't have uranium. One of the biggest advantages Iran has, it's got uranium. Okay, and then a comparison between Pakistan and North Korea. North Korea proliferation through China. Pakistan was espionage, and ultimately China gave designs, and Americans helped them. Iran self-built, largely self-built. Okay, largely self-built. Iran is a different kettle of fish. If these mullahs were not around, Iran would have been nuclear by now. It is mullahs, thanks to mullahs that they are not nuclear. Otherwise, they have the technology capability. Even now, if there's a regime change in Iran and some good regime comes in a matter of 10 years, their economy will rebound and they'll be nuclear. They have the capability. Let's not have doubts about that. They have brains. Uyghurs were originally Mongolians of the Uyghur Khanate. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And they were converted. Completely agree with you. Good evening, sir. What is the mindset of the Chinese military regarding India, and will China handle or survive the sanction of USA? Right. I'll do a separate program on this. But after Op Sindoor, why after Op Sindoor? After Galwan, um, Kailash range operations, Yangtze, and now Op Sindoor, China would be very worried. And the fact is that they're worried. You see, I'll put it in my study. Certain study which I do, I don't talk here. I'll be very honest, because not for public. But I'll give you some idea of that. Till about maybe 3 years back, till 21, 22, I didn't hear about China adopting a defensive posture. Didn't have a defensive policy. Their policy against India was to enter India. That's it. But after that Yangtze thing, yeah, I think so, if I remember right. After Yangtze, October 20, October 22, I think 20th October 22 or something like that. I don't remember the date. And this was just before the 20th Party Congress. They got a nice beating from us there. After that, they have not attempted anything. And that must have put, they would have known that, look, we can't match them. Because all these things which we use, modern warrior, doesn't work there. There it's only manpower which works. They're worried. And then they started putting a defensive posture. What will their actions be if Indians come 30 kilometers across the LAC? What if they come 100 kilometers in depth? What will they come 200 kilometers in depth? So their posture has changed. That will tell you. And now though, I one of these days I'm going to reassess a PLA, how capable or incapable it is. Some part will be old, some will be new, but we'll do it.